This is what a former partner did to me. When I decided that I was ready to break up. And I thought that I was breaking up with him in a way that was very safe. He lived in the next city. He lived in Oklahoma City. I lived in Moore, Oklahoma at the time. I was in my house, my doors were locked. I knew that he was, in his city, I think headed home, and I did it over the phone. And I actually had a plan to, change my locks and all that stuff the next day. Although he was upset, it seemed like he was taking it kind of okay because we weren't like fighting or arguing a lot. What I didn't know was that he was driving on his way to my house at that moment, and that he would use my garage code, come into my home intentionally without me knowing, and then start attacking me. Once a week, I would go to my children's elementary school to eat lunch with them. And when it was all said and done, and while my face was still swollen, I still had to live life like this. My children had to see me like this. I couldn't perform, I couldn't film for quite some time until I had the 9 stitches in my face removed. I had to have my jaw wired shut because he broke my jaw on both sides of my face. And of course, lots of bruises and things on my body. And there were signs. There were signs, which is why I decided to break up with him. I wound up allowing him to convince me to drop the restraining order and to take him back because I wound up having a death in the family during that time, which he used that time, as a vulnerability. He convinced me that he was going to go to therapy and go to church with me, but be a better man. And I knew that if he was capable of this, that if I did not relent, that, he probably would be successful the next time in taking me out because he really thought that he did. And I know that he intended to do that day. To this day, there are a lot of people in that metro who are still his fans, and they don't believe that this wasn't an accident. I never got justice. I pressed charges on him. I had to go through the most humiliating forensic interviews where they took pictures of my entire body. I had to say everything that happened over and over again. My story has never changed. This happened almost 10 years ago, and I can still tell you everything exactly the same because when it's true, it's true. This man is very popular. He had a popular radio show at the time. He may still be on air there. I don't know, and I don't care. He's a very popular event DJ, very strong name at the university we went to, very well connected as a member of, he's a Mason. And that shielded him. There were even people and girls that were close friends of mine that would go behind my back and tell him everything that I was saying, everything that I was planning. When I started to share on social media in a private way what I was experiencing, they would take copies of those private videos and they would show him. This is why some women don't leave right away. This is why it can be very difficult for some women when they're in a relationship that is controlling, that is non-consensual, to be able to get away. Because there are a lot of people sometimes around that will support the abuser, especially if that abuser is someone who is considered popular and powerful. Even if it's powerful in a very small kind of country area like this guy is. It can be very difficult to escape. I did, but it took me almost 2 additional years to be able to just make sure that he was comfortable and make sure that he severely underestimated me and make sure that when I made my move to get away from him and other things that were just really toxic, that I could do it once and for all. And even when I did that, I just had to be smart. And I had to, and I'm not saying that no one else is smart. I'm not saying that. But I had to just make sure that this time, because look what he did to me the last time. I had to make sure that this time I could try to minimize the risk. I'll put it like that. People saw us on TV together. People saw us in public together. People saw us do events together. We had a pretty, popular commercial on TV together. So how could I possibly be in this relationship? And how could it possibly be so toxic if we look so happy? That's what people say all the time. And that also makes the abuser feel so isolated because you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. I'm sharing this because the only way that I know to get justice, any semblance of justice for myself and for other people, other women who may still be in that situation, who thankfully made it out like I did, who should still be alive today, is to tell the truth and shame the devil. Speak up, expose it. He is threatened by his attorney a couple of times to get me to cease and desist. So I have shied away from saying his name over the past couple of years, but I will say his last name is Chappelle, and he's a DJ. I'll say that. No relation whatsoever to the Dave Chappelle. No relation at all. Although he did lie to me and say that he had a connection with him, but that's another thing about narcissistic abusers. They're habitual liars. He said that he was almost best friends with Albie Shore too. And to lots of other people and people who would probably come to the radio station. As a matter of fact, he also told me he was really good friends with Ray J. Like, he's made up stories about so many people. But back to the point. The point is, I think that exposure is important. Speaking up is important. Speaking out is important because so many women need to know that you're not alone. There are options. I had to come to the conclusion that I can get a new house. I can get a new car. If I have to start over from scratch again, that's what I will do. If I have to completely start over with nothing, that's what I did. I packed my 4 kids up and I had nothing but $200 to my name. And I drove all the way across country back to Jersey, which is my state of origin. And I completely started over from nothing. I wound up getting a job with the band right away. I wound up Uber driving. I wound up relying on a couple of old friends. I got social services. I got domestic violence counseling. I had police records and things like that. And although I couldn't get a conviction, that was enough to be able to at least get all the assistance I needed to completely rebuild my life. And he wasn't the first one to abuse me, but he was the worst one. I have a couple of girlfriends and one male friend that they've all lost a sister because of domestic violence. And they were all Black and they all died at the hands of another Black man. And that's a whole nother really big, important conversation because those numbers are staggering. And I don't have much time in this 10-minute video to go through all of that. But I will say this, that if you are in a relationship with someone who starts to show the signs, please don't wait for it to get that bad. Once I saw that it was getting worse, I decided to leave, and he tried to take me out of here because how dare I? Because a lot of these men believe that you are their possession and they have to have power. And when they don't have that power and control, they completely lose it. It's that important to them to feel like they are so-called respected, but that respect really means control and power and ownership. Please, don't let it get as far as I did with these people. There are signs, those really little signs, those little shit tests that they do to see how much more you're going to take. You know, if I could do it all over again, I would. And I would say to leave at the first sign. Don't wait for the second or third. If you wind up like calling your girlfriends or trying to like go over a situation and think, am I wrong for this? Am I wrong for setting boundaries? You know, maybe I should give them another chance. Don't. Because every single extra chance they get, it gets worse. It gets worse. We're adults and they know what they're doing. And if they don't know what they're doing, it's not on you to teach them. You're not the mama and you're not God. Let them go with God. And you please live your life in peace and safety. Not blaming myself whatsoever. I'm just saying, let these stories be a cautionary tale. I'm so lucky to be here. Everyone wasn't. So please be careful. And if you have to leave, make a plan and do it as safely and quickly as you can. And don't ever look back and just completely close the door and don't play around with it. Get far away, close the door, get all the help you can, cut ties with people who may be sympathizers because they are dangerous. And please be well. Take good care of yourself.
Yeah. This is for the women who built it anyway. No permission, no apology. I've been quiet, I've been watching. Let them talk, I keep it polished. Single mama, still exotic. Pressure made me this iconic. I don't chase, I align. Every loss was divine. I don't beg, I decide. Handle mine every time. I set the tone when I enter. Peace is the prize, I protect her. If it don't serve, I release it. Boundaries sharp, but they gentle. I'm rooted, rebuild this, reclaim. Still rising, still sane. I speak the room, rearrange. This is power with a name. Darling Nikki, remember, I don't break, I transcend. Every scar got a lesson. Every loss made a legend. Darling Nikki, remember, I don't break, I transcend. Every scar got a lesson. Every loss made a legend.